Hello, I'm Jamie Younger, and this is If You Knew Me, a podcast about the inner lives of women. Every week, we walk into the heart and mind of one woman. Each guest can choose to share her real name or to stay anonymous. This week, we hear from Tonie. That's her real name. Tonie is a yoga teacher. Just before the pandemic, she was inspired to offer yoga classes exclusively for Black women. These days, Tonie is feeling conflicted about the balance of giving to others and taking care of herself. And she's troubled by the wellness industry. It often looks so generous and tidy and peaceful from the outside, but sitting inside of it, Tonie tells a different tale. Her story is entitled, I Had to Forgive Myself.
I'm pretty conflicted right now, feeling pretty lonely right now. So I work in wellness. I'm a yoga teacher. And I have been teaching full-time for a really long time, since 2020, since George Floyd was killed. And Black Lives Matter was really galvanized into its most recent push and expansion. I actually lost a lot of really strong friendships, what I thought was strong, due to difference in race. It was like every single moment of racism that I had experienced, every microaggression, every time I didn't stand up for myself, haunted me all over again. And in that time, I had to really forgive myself for not standing up for myself, for not realizing what was happening to me, for all the times that I don't know, pushed against my own Blackness, my own Black womanhood, wasn't really standing in my sense of self. But on the other hand, it was very clear what I wanted to do with yoga, with teaching yoga. So I found myself working towards what I would say now is healing justice. I found this alignment with an ambassadorship program and a teacher-owned cooperative, very social justice-based work. And I was able to propel my own passion in Yuja Soul yoga for Black women, which was born from a place of loneliness and hurt. And so here's this trend again of feeling really lonely and trying to turn prolonged abuse into something good. And to be honest, I'm just tired of feeling like I have to transform abuse and create community and create power and help people feel better. Because really, lately, I feel so commodified as a teacher. The standards of the wellness industry where Black women and other teachers who are not white are copied and not credited, whose images are being used so a studio can make money, exploited for whatever a business owner wants from marketing for teachers. It's all this continued commodification. And it feels particularly lonely when no one else that I know is doing the work that I'm doing. Every single person I grew up with has taken a very traditional path. We all went to school together and then they, got married, had children. They're doing these very corporate, big deal jobs. They have these very traditional routes. And I'm the only one that does not. And so there's no one who understands that I need to be poured into as much as I'm pouring into other people. And it feels especially compounded because I'm a Black woman. I don't know how much more I can teach. I don't know how much more I can keep choosing this life. But at the same time, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. And I'm just really tired. It's not necessarily that I'm doing this to like get brownie points or accolades, but I work really hard to be aware and kind and generous, and I'm not seeing the reward. I'm just getting depleted and depleted, and I'm trying really hard not to regret choices that I made to do this. I will say financially, that's the biggest piece. I think if there was more financial stability, maybe this wouldn't be feeling so tender. I think that's the hard part about creating your own path. No one in my family has done this, forged their own way from what we're all raised to do, culturally and traditionally. So I don't even have an example. I know how to take care of myself, but a lot of that requires time away from working. Time away from working means that I'm not making money. And if I'm not making money, then I'm stressed about paying my bills. I think the industry is also just very, there's this decision of who the cool kids are and who gets to be visible and who gets to be seen as originators of ideas. And a lot of people are not being credited for their thought and their ideas. And the industry there isn't this creation of space. It's not an expanding framework. It's everyone just let's get in where we fit in. And it's feeling really crowded right now. Perhaps, especially those who work so hard to do good, I think we are swallowing our own loneliness. One thing that always comes up for me when these moments of loneliness happen is community. And I hope that we don't forget that we find someone or someplace, or even if it's like with our ancestry, whatever you believe in, there is someone there with you. And there are people sharing the same experience in their own way. I know that even though I feel lonely, and I know that I'm not alone, completely alone. I think people have this expectation of me that I'm this strong, powerful person. And I feel so like, actually, no, I'm struggling right now. Then who am I to be teaching anyone yoga? If I share that I'm this person that's still figuring things out, who's going to want to hear what I have? Like, listen to me, Everyone wants to listen to a Black woman and emulate a Black woman until it's time to credit us. And until it's time for us to be in a spotlight that they're used to being in. You would think that in the wellness industry that, the wellness industry, it's astounding how much harm is perpetuated and how little I get to actually be soft and explore my womanhood. I had been teaching for a few years and actually was dealing with a really horrible breakup. And part of the breakup had to do with race. And it really, really, really devastated me, this breakup. And so I was feeling sad, and I noticed more than I had ever noticed before how white the spaces that I was teaching were, in terms of the students and in terms of fellow teachers. And I had this strong need to be around Black women. Everything that I've been through in my life, my mom passing away, migrating to a new country, a few traumas that I had experienced at the hands of men, the people who rallied around me were Black women. And I was getting very resentful of teaching from my lived experience, my healing, my wounds, my strength, my weaknesses, to people who were not Black women. And so I noticed around that time how lacking the industry was in inclusivity. And so I remember sitting down after a class. My friend Arlene was in the lobby in the studio, and there was someone working the front desk. And I said, I'm going to do a class for Black women, and only Black women. And we're going to talk about Black women things and do yoga for Black women things. And Arlene and this person were like, you're not going to leave the studio until you post it to your Instagram. And that was the beginning of Yuja Soul. So Yuja Soul is yoga for Black women, all practice levels. And it started in person. Right now it's online. It doesn't have an official home outside of my heart space. My teaching is really an extension of my belief and my hopes for Black women and girls, and for the wider Black community in terms of our collective healing.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Tonie Warner is a career yoga teacher based in Brooklyn, New York. She teaches at the intersection of yoga philosophy and social justice at group classes and teacher trainings throughout New York City. Tonie is the founder of Yuja Soul, Yoga for Black Women, a space dedicated to healing justice for Black women. If Tonie's story spoke to you, take a moment and share it. I have to tell you, every time Pete and I get an email notice that someone in the world has left a review on our website or on Apple Podcasts, we do a little happy dance. Our 2-year-old daughter thinks it's kind of funny. So if you like the show, we invite you to rate us and leave us a written review. It will undoubtedly make our day. Perhaps you've been listening to the show for a while. Perhaps this is your first time listening in. Either way, I invite you to join us. As it turns out, we are way more than just this podcast show. This show is about expansion and self-care and consciousness. Each episode touches questions that are central to women's lives. Our monthly members go deeper with us. They give us a contribution to help us produce the show, and in return, we provide members with resources and tools. For example, this fall, we will be hosting our first ever online retreat. The event will be hosted by me and 3 outstanding women who will guide us through various types of meditation, breathwork, and prayer. If you're currently a member or you become a member before September 1st of this year, 2022, you'll get a free event ticket. We hope you join us soon. The links for everything that I just mentioned are in the show notes. This podcast is produced by me, Jamie Younger, and my husband, Pete Herkmans. Thanks so much for listening to If You Knew Me. We'll be back with you next week.